Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome to Muslims for Progressive Values. I'm your host, Kendra Cordova. Today we are touching on a very sensitive and deeply emotional topic. So I do want to let you guys know that ahead of time. You guys probably already know that based on the thumbnail, the picture for this video. But I also want to let you guys know that this video isn't just going to be heavy and sad. There's actually going to be a lot of hope in this video. I have a lot to share with you guys, and I even have a little homework assignment for us as we are coming up to Ramadan in 2 weeks now, 1 week-ish. I will have a little homework assignment for all of us to do together. It's going to be great as we reflect on sort of what's going on in this transitional time that we are in right now. So first thing, I do want to give an update and a little bit of information on the death of our dear friend Muhsin Hendricks. And then 2, we're going to look at some Islamic reflections. Number 3, I want to give you guys homework for progressive Muslims as we come up to Ramadan. And then finally, I'm going to leave you guys with a bonus of 3 inspirational quotes that really help during times like this. So the first thing I want to address here is the death of Imam Muhsin Hendricks. So he actually has videos on our channel. He did work with Muslims for Progressive Values as one of many things that he was a part of. He came to popularity as being one of the first openly gay imams. He was from South Africa, but he was trained in Pakistan in Islamic jurisprudence and all that, religious studies. And he opened up a mosque, a masjid for people of all backgrounds to be able to be there without feeling unsafe. Queer Muslims or just Muslims of any background. You could all be there together without that fear, which is just, it's really important and very beautiful. One of the reasons he was loved so much. He was also the founder of the Inner Circle, which is a group that was for LGBTQ Muslims in South Africa as well. I'll put a link to his video here in the bottom. But if you haven't heard already, I'm sorry that this is your first time hearing about this. But on the 15th, he was assassinated. There was video of guys, jumping out of a car, shooting into his car, and killing him before driving off. The first emotions that I was hit with when I got this news is probably a lot like any of yours. It comes with mostly shock and sadness, a little bit of anger, right? And usually the next step there is to reflect. And there are usually two routes that we go here, and we're actually going to overstep both of these today in this video. And that's what I want you guys to know, is that we're actually going to get to the hope. We're going to get to the what do we do now part, which usually, a lot of people end before they get there. So usually this is going to split off into 2 things. One of them, the common one, is going to be where people go, well, that was un-Islamic of them. Muslims don't go around executing people. That's obviously terrible. Terrorism is bad. And of course we, don't agree with that. And that was bad. And then they stop there. And then the other side is more personal for people, and it's very, very painful. I've had people that have contacted me. They've felt like they might have to leave Islam, or they have so much struggle with being a Muslim because of facing things like this, of facing hatred, of facing just abuse and just venomous, poisonous language towards them, even from family members and friends, making them feel unsafe and just awful. And to be honest, no one could blame them for that. Because if you are faced with, let's say, a religion and the only information you're given on it is that in order to be a good person in that religion, you have to mock or harm or kill or abuse people that are different or that you don't agree with or whatever, then obviously you're going to want to step away from that, and you should want to step away from that. That's awful. You shouldn't do that. And yet as progressive Muslims, here we are, and we stay. We are Muslims. And that is because we don't believe that Islam is about violence, that Islam is supposed to be about othering and oppressing people. Women, LGBTQ people, people of different races and cultures and backgrounds. We don't believe that that's the point of Islam. We believe Islam is the truth. We believe that Islam is a call and a pathway and a faith that can lead you directly to Allah. With those things said, this is usually where a khutbah or a sermon or a speech or whatever is going to stop. They're going to say, that is very un-Islamic. We're not supposed to go around killing people. That's not what a Muslim is. And then they move on. There's no definition of what does it mean then. I want us to take a look at a few ayahs from the Quran, as well as a few of what are called the Hadith Qudsi. Hadith Qudsi are basically like Quran plus in the way that they are Hadith. They are, stories and things that were shared from the people around the Prophet, of things that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said. But it's not about his sayings or his thoughts or his feelings or his experience, so much as it was him relaying what Allah had said about himself. So like, what does Allah think? What does Allah care about? What does Allah feel, in a sense, about certain? So throughout the Quran, Allah is condemning violence between people and talking about how that's one of the worst things you can do. And let's look at some of these verses. So like when the angels are asking Allah about creating people, as he's making them, the angels questioned God. In Surah 2, Ayah 30, the angels asked God why he would create humans if they are going to, quote, make mischief in the land and shed blood. The angels were unsure of the potential of goodness for humans because of our violence. And when God asked why Iblis, the shaitan, didn't bow before Adam, he said, because I am better than them. When we look at another human and we say, I am better than them, I pray more, I'm better than them, I'm a Muslim, I'm better than them, I'm not gay, I'm better than them. Whatever that is, that pride, that ego, was the sin of the shaitan. The belief that you can look at another creature, another creation of Allah, and say, I am above them. Surah 6, Ayah 12, talks about how Allah is the most merciful to those who show mercy. It's the idea that if we show mercy, we get mercy from Allah. If we show cruelty, how can we expect mercy from Allah, right? This goes on in Surah 24, Ayah 22. Let them forgive and overlook. Do you not wish that Allah would forgive you? If you want Allah to be forgiving and merciful towards you, you yourself should be able to show mercy and forgiveness. You can also look at Ayah 17 verse 53, where it talks about how the shaitan is dividing us. If you see division between people, now oftentimes people might say, if you see people that have difference of opinion, but that's not what it's talking about here. If we look at the angels talking about the shedding of the blood, the shaitan saying, I am better than these, right? We talk about all that. When we say in Ayah 17 verse 53 that the shaitan is dividing us, is dividing the believers. He sows division. He is sowing. What is his belief? I am better than you. He is sowing that idea that you can look at another person and think that they are beneath you, that they are not as worthy of Allah's mercy or of the life that Allah gave them, or whatever that is, than you. The true believer, you need to look into their heart. How did you know if that person was a believer or not? Did you look into their heart? Allah knows our hearts. Who could know a person's heart and what's truly within a person's heart, what we conceal, what we hide, and what we truly believe, better than Allah? Now, with that said, speaking of Allah and the Quran and all of this, I did want to share 2 of these hadith qudsi with you guys because they're very enlightening. They're very beautiful. So the first one I want to share with you guys. Anytime you are online, especially, sometimes in person, you hear people talking like this, right? The backbiting and stuff, but especially online, you're going to see like comments and messages and just awful, awful things that people say. Allah actually brings this up here. It says, a man said, by Allah, Allah will not forgive so-and-so. Now think about any time you've ever seen somebody say like, oh, like they're destined for hell, or oh, they're guided by the shaitan, claiming to know you claim that you know the judgment of Allah, right? So a man said, by Allah, Allah will not forgive so-and-so. At this, Allah the Almighty said, who is he who swears by me that I will not forgive so-and-so? Verily, I have forgiven so-and-so, and I have nullified your own good deeds. If you're out here claiming to judge someone else and to know what Allah is going to judge, to claim you have the knowledge of Allah into that person's heart, to look at someone and say, Allah will not forgive them. Allah is going to send that person straight to hell. Allah is going to do this. Allah says, who claims that they know what I know? You know what? I'm going to forgive them. This again goes back to that. Allah is merciful to those who show mercy. Allah shows forgiveness to those who show forgiveness. If you are showing that ego and that anger and that judgment and that this and that, like it even points out here, Allah is not a fan. Allah is not wanting y'all to do that. The other one I want to share with you guys has to do with the homework assignment I'm going to give us. And this is the idea that if you dress a certain way, act a certain way, check off all of the prayers, the type of things that people use sometimes for ego, or will put down reverts or people that can't speak the Arabic or whatever that is as a reason for them to be sort of looked down on. They use this as like a scholarly, I am, again, better than you. We're really focusing on that mentality, the toxicity of that mentality of I am better than someone else. So here it says, the first of people against whom judgment will be pronounced on the day of resurrection will be a man who has died a martyr. He will be brought, and Allah will make known to him his favors, and he will recognize them. The Almighty will say, and what did you do about them? He will say, I fought for you until I died a martyr. He will say, you have lied. You did but fight that it might be said of you, he is courageous. And so it was said that he'll be ordered to be dragged along his face into the hellfire. Okay. Oftentimes you have these people that, do things to be seen as amazing, to be seen as heroes, to go out of their way to, fight for the cause of Allah only so that other people will see them as great and awesome and brave. So too it says, another will be a man who has studied religious knowledge and has taught it, and who used to recite the Quran. He will be brought, and Allah will make known to him his favors, and he will recognize them. The Almighty will say, what did you do about them? He will say, I studied religious knowledge and taught it, and I recited the Quran for your sake. he will say, "You have lied. You did but study a religious knowledge, that it might be said of you, he is learned. And you recited the Quran, that it might be said of you, he is a reciter. And so it was said, and he will be ordered to be dragged on his face into the hellfire." So, it is not deeds alone that make or break our relationship with Allah. I've said this in many videos before, but I'm going to say it again, right? Islam is not a checklist. You can't just wake up and have a checklist of things, do all of them, and then at the end of the day be like, I did the checklist, I'm awesome. I did the checklist, I do all the things. So therefore, Allah must think I'm great. Like, it was never about the checklist. It was never about trying to show who's the most righteous. It wasn't about trying to show who can, stand in prayer the longest, or who's got the most modest outfit, or who's got... At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. In the Quran, when we are brought to judgment, it's just us and God. I'm not going to compare you to the next person, because every person has a different situation. Because at the end of the day, Allah just wants to look to our heart and say, like, did you love me? Did you look around at the world and at my creation and at my people, and did you just say, like, wow, this is beautiful, I want to take care of it for the sake of Allah. This is, wonderful. I want to share this for the sake of Allah. I want to heal the world that Allah made because of Allah. And that is not to say that there's no place in the world for prayer. Of course there is. It's important. Allah asked us to pray throughout the day to connect with Him, and He knows best, right? And Allah gave us the Quran as a mercy so that we may get to know Him, and that is beautiful. We need to read it, and we need to understand it, and we need to share it. I know that when we look out at the world and it is dark and scary, it can feel like there's nothing we can do about it. That's not true. So we're going to get to our homework, which is going to be one thing we can do about it. But here's our Ramadan homework. As we go into Ramadan, this is a time of reflection, and we are reflecting on a lot of emotional loss and sadness and fear. The question I want us to ask now, as we go into Ramadan and throughout Ramadan, our homework is, I want us to ask, what makes someone a Muslim? I want you to find that. Find that. What makes someone a Muslim, right? We know it's not violence, right? Obviously. And we don't want to define it to just a checklist either, because like I said, you could say it's someone who prays. A lot of people pray. Okay, well, you could say it's someone who prays, the Salah prayers. Those exceptions, you can't, just cut anybody that isn't doing a prayer off necessarily either. Fasting, there are some people I can't fast. I have a doctor who is a Muslim who told me, like, I cannot fast. I even tried it once just to see if I could do it, and it made my chronic illness so bad I was like crippled for days. Like, I can't. So when we're trying to base it on this checklist, there's, we need to look deeper than that. And we saw in the Hadith Qudsi, we see throughout the Quran that it says Allah's looking at our hearts. So if Allah is looking at our hearts, I want to know, what is in the heart of a Muslim? What does it mean to be a Muslim? And if you are to look at a Muslim's heart, what are you going to find there? That is our homework assignment, okay? As we go through Ramadan, let's read the Quran together. We're going to come up with a list of some of these like beautiful ayahs that tell us about the heart of a Muslim and what that means to be a Muslim. Let me leave you with these 3 quotes. I think they're going to help, because these are sad times. So the first one is actually a popular quote by Bryant McGill. So he's like a human thought, like human researcher person. He talks about like human potential in the mind and stuff. And So his quote says, "The only thing we can do about awful people is to not be one of them." And I'm not saying that in the like, I'm better than you thing that we were just talking about, but some of them are going to be like violent and scary and dangerous and cruel, right? And we want to know, what can we do? Don't be the awful person. And then you're doing great, right? Number 2, this is by James Baldwin. So he's like a Black American like novelist and writer. And the Black community is another community around the world, even within Islamic groups, that has gone through just a lot of trauma and mistreatment and all of this. And he wants to remind people, he says, please try to remember that what they believe, as well as what they do and cause you to endure, does not testify to your inferiority, but to their inhumanity. So sometimes we victim blame. We even victim blame ourselves. Like, well, maybe if I wouldn't have gone to that one place at the one time, or maybe if I, would have done this, then they would have been kinder to me. Or when someone is cruel like that and violent, it's not your fault. And then finally, the third one is a quote by Rabia al-Basri. So I love her poetry and her Islamic reflective insight. She's a Sufi poet, and this goes back to that what is in the heart of a Muslim, right? Like, why should we do what we do? Why should we not just have a checklist, right? So she says, if I adore you out of fear of hell, burn me in hell. If I adore you out of desire for paradise, lock me out of paradise. But if I adore you for yourself alone, do not deny to me your eternal beauty. So why do we do what we do? For the love of God. With that, I will leave you to go on with your evening or your day or whenever you're watching this. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, I'm going to be coming out with some live videos, some live classes that we're going to start doing the first Saturday of every month. So keep on the lookout for those on social media and emails where you can sign up for those classes. So inshallah, I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a great day.